one of you present here for today's fortnightly online symposia of In Tandem Research Club. Theme for the academic year is regions and translations in Indian writing. Theme for this session is North Indian regions. The In Tandem Research Club is a vibrant platform where collaboration meets creativity and research transforms into meaningful dialogue. It actually serves as a space for young scholars and thinkers to share insights, exchange ideas, and inspire one another toward academic excellence. We're truly delighted to have an inspiring lineup of presenters and distinguished keynote speaker with us today, each bringing unique perspectives and valuable contributions to their respective fields. To begin with, we'll start our session with the paper presentations, followed by the much-awaited keynote address. Now, moving forward to the paper presentation segment, where young researchers share their innovative ideas and insightful findings. Let us begin with our first paper presenter, Ms. Jothika. Ms. Jothika is a postgraduate student from the Department of English, Madras Christian College. She's deeply passionate about teaching and has previously worked as a CBSE secondary English teacher. Beyond academics, she's an active volunteer with Make a Difference, MAD, contributing towards educational equity. Adding to her remarkable achievements, she also serves as an NCC Army cadet holding the rank of Company Quartermaster Sergeant, a true example of discipline and dedication. Today, Ms. Jothika will be presenting her research paper titled Bridging Cultures, Celebrated Translations in Indian Literature. Ms. Jothika, the platform is all yours.
Thank you for this wonderful introduction. Please wait, I will.
Your screen is visible. You're on the last slide. You have to move up to the first.
Yes, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Is it visible, ma'am?
Yes, it is.
Good evening, ma'am, and good evening, all. I'm very delighted to present my topic on bridging culture, celebrated translation in Indian literature through a bioregional lens. Actually, we all thought translation only bridge the culture and linguistics, but here big difference. Let me explore this translation into a bioregional lens, how it carries culture along with bioregional essence to other countries. Okay. First, let me explore about the translation. We thought translation is just a transfer of language along with culture, but I am here going to present about how translation is going to transfer the culture along with ecology and emotion to the wider readership. Let me talk about the Indian translation. Actually, Indian translation only helps to bridge regions, because we have different regions, different cultures, different language. We are celebrating the different literary things. But how it is bridging to other countries, that is the very important thing we are going to see here. So I have taken a Hindi story. I have taken North Indian region. Actually, the story writer is Premchand. He has written the short story Ida. It was translated by Kushwan Singh into English. Okay, your name is A Festival of Eight. As a Festival of Eight, he has translated. Here he explored how this North Indian region essence and cultures it's transferred along with his writing. He's not only concentrating on literary words, but he's also concentrating on their words, their social life, and also their other surroundings, environment, land, each and everything he has noticed, and he has taken this bound of all those things and he's translated to other countries. So first, the objectives of my translation is how translation of Kushwan Singh pursue the North Indian region cultures along with its ecological essence. First, let me explore what is bioregionism. Actually, bioregionism is emphasizing the human beings, how their life cultures is connected towards their land and environment. For example, if we are eating rice in Tamil Nadu, why? Because our fertile land is could be fit for only the rice growth. So we are fitting for our food and dresses. Everything is related to our land and environment. So same like that, culture is rooted from land and environment. People influenced by their region, then only they have set kind of principle to follow their culture. So here we could see the land as a cultural landscape, how it is connected the social and the land one. Because here social means man is creating road, bridges, then home like that. But it is connected to that only the land and environment, how it is fitting to that particular region. Then only their culture, social history has been transformed. So here the key practitioners who has talked about the bioregionism, Wendell Berry, David Brower, Peter Beck, they have talked about bioregional because they emphasize that people should know that they identify rooted from only the land and environment. Then only they have identified their culture, language, everything. So here I'm going to talk about the story, the particular story, how it is reflects the bioregional elements and how it's helpful to people to understand the North Indian setting. So this story, the Festival of Eight, which was translated by Kushwan Singh, it's a set in a general North Indian region. The story reflects the village ecosystem. That means the story actually emphasize the people happiness towards the culture celebrating of Ramzan, what we say the Festival of Eight. The author described the culture along with the trees, fast fields, and local foods. Here we could understand Hamid is a very important protagonist character. He was brought up by his grandmother. He doesn't have parents. Okay. In that meantime, Hamid went to that function along with his friends. That time he wants to get chocolate sweets. Actually, it has been kept in the fast. His other friends are trying to get different toys and different things. They are trying to explore new things. Hamid also exploring new things, but lack of money, he didn't buy anything. At the end of the play, he bought only the tongs. It's a tongs is used for making chapati. So here you can think what is there in that. But here I'm going to explain that he has seen many things in fast, and he has seen many things in fast, and his friends also explore so many toys and this. But why he bought a tong means his grandmother used to make chapati. So it shows he can buy anything which is useful for that kitchen. But why he bought a tongs? Because it shows that his regular food is depend on only the wheat. Okay, tongs used to for only make chapati. So when his grandmother making chapati, he used to get often hurt. So for that he has bought a tong from that fair. So here what I'm going to connect this, his food. Okay, his food, it's chapati, which is wheat products. It's related to the region, because in North Indian regions, the local land is belongs to the cooler region. So it's only the stable for region crops. Okay, so which will be fertile for only the growth of wheat. So the people familiar with their food only the wheat. So This is connection of that bioregional, how it is explored through its culture. Then translation as culture bridge. Okay, so Kushwant Singh as a translator, we know Kushwant Singh is a humorous writer. When he writes, he mingle humorous along with morals. But here also, he never concentrate as a target language, but he concentrate how he is going to transfer this culture along with the essence of ecological region through his translation. So he translate local idioms, such as when he translate, he never use mother and all, he use amma, allah, like these words are he has used. So it shows it has enhanced the essence of readers, and it is very useful to understand the local cultures. And also he preserves the village rhythm. Okay, how the peoples are talking, how children are imagining, and the folk tone, the function mood, he set everything as it is original in Premchand work. So it shows the translation became a bridge connecting rural North India with the world literary space. It shows that it's not only connecting the cultures of North India, but also it explained through that culture they could view the beautiful ecological region of North Indian region. And the signification of Kushwant's like work. Okay, so when he translate, he doesn't focus on only the moral thing, which is the Hamid boy stand for a compassion, then morality, and how he's kindness towards his grandmother. But he's also shows how the culture values very important through that small domestic thing, how the children are learning the values, how the children are learning the values of money. So it's all connected through the regional thing. So, what is the my findings analysis here? Hamid's love for his grandmother and awareness of hardship is express humor and nature harmony. Okay, so his expression is not about teaching. Is expression of kind. It's not about teaching. He doesn't learn anywhere, but he learns throughout his domestic work. He is observing everything. So here, lessons can learn through the culture values. So here, Eidag is a bioregion story that celebrates Indian compassion, simplicity, and ecology. Here, this story has been set for a other story. How it is transferring not only the culture along with the ecological region, it also transfer the Indian compassion, simplicity, and ecology. How the small boy behaved like a matured man through his domestical culture, he learns that passion. So, therefore, Kushwant Singh reached not only the languages but also cultures and environment. He has set the beautiful view of North Indian regions, how it is influencing their culture. Like, for example, their dresses, their festivals, and also their food, which is everything is reflecting towards their regional. So, therefore, culture translation is not kind of bridging the linguistics, but it also bridge of soul, and society. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jothika, for your well structured and insightful presentation. Your analysis was engaging, and the way you articulated your findings reflects your deep understanding of the subject. It was actually truly a pleasure listening to your work and witnessing your passion for research. Now, let us move on to our second paper presenter, Ms. Kavya Bharathi. Ms. Kavya Bharathi is a multi-phased talent who has been serving as an assistant professor in Department of English at Dr. M.G.R. Janaki College since 2023. While pursuing her PhD, she continues to showcase her versatility through various passions. As an ardent reader and speaker, Professor Kavya's love for literature and communication shines through with a unique blend of art, academia, and sports. Today, Ms. Kavya Bharathi will be presenting her paper titled From Vampires to Vanishing Men, Fantasy in Translation. Ms. Kavya Bharathi, you may now take over the platform.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. I will just share my screen. Hope my screen is visible. My topic is from vampires to vanishing men, fantasy in translation. Uh, my literary works for this study are three works. Two are from Hindi and one is from Sanskrit, which was translated to Hindi and then it was translated to English. The first one is The Tale of the Missing Man by Mansoor Hartisham. The second work is Chandrakanta, this by Devaki Nandan Khatri, and it was also originally written in Hindi and it was later translated. The next is our very own Vikram and the Vampire. This is a collection of 25 stories. It was written in Sanskrit and then it was translated to Hindi and then it was translated to English. So I'll just go through this how these three novels would be placed in this platform of fantasy first. We will go through the storylines and summaries, and then we will move on to how these works, these works of translation help in exploring why translation is important and relevant. So the first novel under study, which is The Tale of Missing Man. This was originally titled as Dastane Lapata, which means the tale of a missing man, like a man is missing. And this was translated by Jason Grunbaum and Ulrich Stark. So this story follows a man named Zakir and who feels lost in his country, India, and he feels lost because the country is slowly changing. This is set in the post-colonial setup, and slowly modernism is coming in. So he's not able to adapt himself to the changing world to his changing world and how his country is changing and moving so fastly. So he's having that struggle, and also the fantasy element comes where there is a illusion of two worlds that is he is living in. One world he lives in his dream and the other world is the real world that is actually living in. So the fantasy element is that where the boundary or the border of realism and imaginary breaks, and we come into the realm of magical realism where everything feels so real to Zakir. And while we read the novel, we also get to know, we also tend to see both the worlds are same, and the line blurs between the magical world and the real world. The next story is Chandrakanta, and which is by Devaki Nandan Khatri, and this was translated by a group of people. It was translated by Poonam Saxena with others in her team, and this is a novel written in Hindi and it was translated to English. And this novel follows a beautiful love story of Princess Chandrakata and Prince Virendra Singh. And the fantasy element here is how it is set in a magical world. It is not a real world, so it is in a magical kingdom. And this story of the relationship between the prince and princess, along with how they have been manipulated by the magicians over there in the realm, and there is sorcerers, there is in the rival kingdoms who again use magic to take the kingdom, and the whole landscape where the people or the where we have so many elements of shape shifting enchanted fortresses, and these are the ideas that we go through this novel. And when we read this novel, we get to the idea, like, again we sense magical realism, that though we know there is no shapeshifters in our real life, there is no enchanted fortresses that we have, or there is no secret tunnels that just comes in with a click of a magician, we know that. But when this novel is so good that the plot line is very very well weaved, so that all the magical elements seem so real, so interconnected with the plot, so it doesn't seem inorganic. If at all a magician has to bring up a tunnel there because there's something going on in the plot, say that princess has to escape or the princess has to go somewhere, and that is how the plot will move. So these kind of plot points that was placed inside the novel along with fantasy makes it organic, and this does it again. We tend to see it to be a real uh, we tend to take it as a magical realism and not just um, a magical thing that is happening, just not real. The third work under study is our very own Vikraman Veta, and interestingly, with here when this work was translated, when this work was first translated from Sanskrit and then to and then to sorry, first from Sanskrit to Hindi and then to English. This was translated by Richard Burton, and this story is something that is well rooted in our childhood, in our culture, in Indians. The whole Indian subcontinent knows about Vikram and Vedha, and this Vikram and the vampire, the title comes from the translation because the Vetalam that we have as our own mythical creature has so much similarities with the vampire of the European myth. So that is the reason this is the title that is given to the translated work of Vikrama or Vetal, and it is also known as Vital Pastusi. So this is the title we have due to the similarities between a mythical creature here in India and the mythical creature in European myth. So moving on to the relevance of the study. So whatever a translation, whenever a translation is made, it bridges gap between two languages, two audiences with set of different cultural backgrounds who speak different languages, and these particular three literary works, when they are translated, they bridge the gap between fantasy narratives, which is rooted in Indian culture imagination, and their transformation into English. So how connective they are in the to the English audience, to the people who read English literature, and how it is well connected to them or how relevant they receive it. So just as I said. In the first novel, we see how there is a problem of identity crisis which is going on inside a man who's having who's living in a changing world. And then again, we have totally different second novel, which is Chandrakanta, where the fantasy elements seem so real, and there comes a magical realism. That is the theme of the total novel. And similarly, we have so many works in European literature, English literature as well, which has so much magical realism elements in them. And then Vikram or Vaital or Vikram and Vikram and the Vampire, which is a translated title. Again, we see there is a similarity between a mythical creature here in India and a mythical creature in the European myth. And so this study is significant for its interdisciplinary insights into postcolonial translation, fantasy theory, and cultural memory. And analyzing these texts would reveal the evolution of Indian fantastic tradition from supernatural encounters and mythical allegories to psychological and existential estrangement. So, Indian literature is very logical, I would say, because we don't have an abstract myth or abstract fantasy that is going on. We have rooted logic to it, and all most of the Indian literature that we read, it can be myth or just a fantastical novel. We have so much of logic going on behind it. So that is the reason magical realism works in Indian literature far better than any other literature, to my understanding. Because when we read other fantasy literature from any other country, or mostly now fantasy is been adapted as America's own genre after Gothic literature, which was popular in America. So they take it for their own, and there is no concrete logic where they could deviate to the myth and create a fantasy world. But in India, when we see fantasy texts and elements which have novels and literary works which have fantasy elements, we see there is so much of logic through it, and when the logic deviates, it seems organic, and that's how we get the fantasy elements or the magical realism, which works beautifully in Indian literature better than any other literature. And it contributes to expanding the canon of fantasy literature beyond the Western paradigm and highlights how translation functions as both a bridge and distortion. Yes, as I said, it bridges the similarities. Okay, I have a Vetal, you have a vampire. I have something called as a sorcerer. I have this lady sorcerer, and you have a witch. So it's very similar to. We find similarities, and at times we see. You have a very different kind of point of view to this particular problem that we put in our literature, and we have a different perspective of what you put in your literature to the European literature and Indian literature. So that we find similarities, and also we deviate. So these are the two theoretical frameworks that I was able to draw for these three novels. So the first is the fantastic structural approach to a literary genre, which was released in 1970 and is written by Zwenton Todro. And he says that fantasy is a hesitation between the natural and supernatural. So fantasy is something that is a hesitation, or how if we analyze the three literary works that we have, like how Vikram and the Vampire and Chandrakatha, they evoke a liminal space between myth and realism. So there is a point where when something there is a hesitation in literature that they have to do something, when they have to do something with the plot to move, and that is where they bring in the fantasy element. So he says that it's a hesitation when natural elements won't work to move the plot point actually, so we bring in a supernatural element. So when there is hesitation of the movement of plot and we don't know how to move it, and we have a platform of law a concrete platform of logic going on, there we could distort, and there we could move apart and get into the supernatural element that we bring in. And the another framework is the fantasy, the literature of subversion. And this was released in 1981. It was written by Rosemary Jackson. And she analyzes this by viewing fantasy as a subversive mode that exposes cultural anxieties, and suppressed desires. So her point of view is that through fantasy, the people who wrote, or the myth that was created, or the folklore, the laws, the something that goes from mouth to mouth, and there is no proper written scriptures of the stories that we have. She observed that, and she comes to a theoretical perspective that all the fantasy elements that we see in the literature, or some um, anxieties and something that desires that is not that won't happen, and anxiety is without any proper solution. That is anxiety we have, sometimes we have solution and sometimes we don't have solution for some anxieties. So these are the uh, platforms in which these myths and how something that is not real is being said into stories. So I mean, coming to the emotional side of fantasy elements, why we should have fantasy there? It is something that we desire that will not happen in the real world. People tend to put it in their stories. So that is how we develop this fantasy elements that we slowly incorporated into the stories that we uh, told in the previous centuries, and that was written into literature later. So low to literature. So this concept is the conclusions that I drew from these three literary works of study here. So these all three texts emerge from India and are they originate from the rich oral storytelling culture. So for example, first we have Vikrama Vetal, which is rooted in ancient folklore in India, so which represent the earliest phase where oral lore was transcribed, making a shift from performative storytelling to literary prominence. So this transition preserved mythic motifs while enabling reinterpretation through translation and print. So Vikram Vetal is very important in Indian literature because this is something that was said or performed before, and it was later documented as a written work, and that became a big part of our culture. And Vikram or Vetal has this very beautiful morals that is coming behind every story, and it defines how a king should be. Though we have so many fantasy elements in that, the Vetal keeps challenging the Vikramaditya, the king, and he it keeps telling, is it this right or that right? And for the readers, both will appear very much valid and very much justified, but a king will have a specific reason to choose one option from Vetal. So these are the and you say this is not just for entertainment, though it has a fantasy element to it. This has been giving the structure of a king, or the values of a king, how a king should be, and how a king should think, and that kind of brain work that a king should have, the wider perspective that a king should have. And we just put it in a normal story to children, and we just give it. That is how our culture worked. So, and then we have a localization and cultural memory. So this localization and cultural memory is that how there was one line that I would like to quote from Vedrimaran's interview, when it is completely away from the topic, but he also being a literature graduate, he uttered one sentence. He said that the more local I go in my filmmaking, I become acclaimed well internationally. So this was the line that was given by director Vetrimaran. So similarly, if we apply that line here, more local we go, more internationally we'll be acclaimed. So this localization of our literature, and how local we go, uh, how of to one specific region, that cultural memory would be specific, because India is multicultural, and that multi is n number of cultures put together. So that kind of huge number of cultures and cultural significance, it just varies from one region to another. So when we go so local, we become acclaimed, oh sorry, we will be acclaimed internationally. And translation as cultural mediation, and how we saw that you have I have a similar character like your vampire to our Vetal, or we don't have something like that, but we have a different one here, which could be an alternative for your one character to our character. So this is the translation as cultural mediation. So we can move from the perspective of translation would bring wider audience, because that is the first stage of audience, a first stage of translation. Now we have this cultural mediation, because whenever we think about translation, we are sticking to first point, wider audience. Wider audience is already reached. So what happens next is cultural mediation. So we learn about different cultures, and we find similarities and dissimilarities between cultures, and involving notions of fantastic. So the move from folklore, supernatural realism to modern literary fantasy redefines how fantastic functions. For example, in the tale of the missing man, we have how this mythic displacement and haunting into psychological allegory. It represents post-colonial alienation rather than mythic adventure. So psychological elements is put into this novel, and we have a fantasy element which could support the psychological plot of the story. So fantasy is something just mostly escaped, or it is we just tend to put it away from mainstream literature. We always go to ecofeminism, we always go to marginal writings, we always go to contemporary literature, and we go to American British. But the fantasy elements, we always tend to go to the exact depiction of real life, and we keep fantasy a little away from most of the studies. But if we include fantasy, we would again explore wider emotions of people, because some desires which can't happen, which is impossible in reality, is expressed through fantastical elements. And preservation and reinvention of cultural identity. So when we keep translating works, and when we have this conversations on cultural mediation, we keep what is ours. We don't let it dissolve in the colonization and post colonization, or the Europeanization of the whole world. So we don't we preserve what is ours, and that is the important aspect of a translation. So, any from this my presentation ends. Is there any questions?
Usually take the questions at the end,
Oh,
Kavya.
and okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
So let the keynote presenter present, and then we will.
Okay. So these are the references that I have put in. We have the three primary sources that I took and the two theoretical perspectives of the theoretical perspectives from the theorist. So these are the references.
Very nice.
Thank you, ma'am.
Is
Thank you.
Dr. Uma there? Yeah, she's joined.
Thank you, Professor Kavya Bharathi, for such an thoughtful and comprehensive presentation. Your research was not only informative, but also reflective of your analytical depth and commitment to the field. The way you connected theory with practical insight was particularly interesting and enriching. Now, it is my privilege to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. M.Uma Maheswari, Head and Assistant Professor, Department of Sanskrit, Queen Mary's College. Dr. Uma Maheswari is a distinguished academician and researcher known for her insightful contributions to the field of Sanskrit and interdisciplinary studies. Today, she is here to present the title Geocriticism in Classical Sanskrit Literature. Ma'am, we are truly delighted to have you with us today. The stage is now yours. Ma'am,
Yeah. Namaste. Uh, uh, Good evening to all the scholars present here. So, related to this topic, uh, when we say geocriticism, uh, the criticism, the beauty of narrating the geographical areas in the literature, classical literatures especially. In that regard, we have poet Dandin, who gives the features of a Mahakavya, features of a Kavya. In that features, there is a mention that Nagara, Arnava, Shaila, Rutu. The description, the Kavya must have the description of Nagara, the area, the city, Arnava, forest, Shaila, mountains, Rutu, seasons, rivers, like that it goes. So, in that regard, every poet in classical Sanskrit literature, to give the authenticity to the poet, their poem, they have to uh, give the description of all these things. For example, uh, we know the popular poet Kalidasa. Kalidasa belongs to the northern region, Ujjain, what we say. So in his Kumara Sambhavam, the first shloka is Astyuttarasyam Dishitevatatma Himalayo Nama Nagadhirajaha Purvaparau Toya Nidhivagahya Stitaha Prithivyaha Iva Manadandaha Asti Uttarasyam Dishi. In the northern direction, Devatatma, a deity, Nagadi Rajaha, who is the king of the mountains, Himalayo Nama, in the name of Himalaya. So there is a deity in the name of Himalaya and the deity himself is a king of all the mountains. And this mountain is there in the northern direction. How is this mountain? Purva aparo varinidhi vagahya. Purva in the eastern and western side edge. In till Varinidhi Vagahya, there are the oceans in between these two directions. Stitaha Prithivyaha Iva Manadandaha. It is standing as the measuring scale of the earth. So, as if measuring the width of the earth, the the vastness of Himalaya we can see from which starts from the east direction and ends in the west direction, and the height is like with compared to its high when it is measuring the height, it is in such a great height that even it can measure the entire circumference of our earth. In that way, this Himalaya is occupying. So like this, we can see the first shloka. Generally, the poet have to start their shloka as in a Mangala form. The first shloka generally is a benedictory verse. Same Kalidasa in Raghuamsha, if you see, in his another Mahakavya Raghuamsha, he starts Vagartha Viva Samprukta Vagartha Pratipattaye Jagataha Pitaro Vande Parvati Parameshwarau. So he offers his salutations to the Parvati and Parameshwara, who are the universal parents. So there he offers like this. But here in Kumara Sambhavam Mahakavya, he directly tells, oh, there is a mountain there, and it is such a huge mountain. It is so vast. It is as if it is measuring the entire earth. So he is directly getting into the plot of the story. So then, what is the Mangala there? Asti. When we asti means is, it is there. It's a positive word. Is yes, it is like that. And moreover, the first letter is A. The A letter is the auspicious letter because all the languages starts with the phonetic sound A. So just having that limited auspicious symbolism there, he is getting into that. And in same Kalidasa in Meghaduta, Megha Sandesham, he is giving a vast description of the place. Here, what is the place means from Ramagiri to Himalayan city Alaka. He is sending the cloud as a messenger. So how the cloud will reach to his abode and give the message to his wife about her beloved, about her husband. So here in Meghadutam, this is the story, not story. This is actually there is a Yaksha and Yakshi. Yaksha and Yakshi are separated. They always live together. Now, because of one curse, Yaksha gets separated, and he is in Ramagiri. He is placed alone in Ramagiri. Now, thinking of his beloved, so Yaksha is all alone, and he sees the cloud, and because the cloud is moving, so he considers the cloud as the messenger. he believes that the cloud will definitely go to his abode and convey the message. So in his imagination, he just wants to let out all his grievances of being all alone. And there, the poet gives a vast description of the journey of this cloud from Ramagiri to Himalayan city Alaka. So first we see in Ramagiri, the journey begins in the Ramagiri, widely identified as Ramtek. And this is this Ramtek is what is present day Vidarbha near Nagpur. Here, the exiled Yaksha, separated from his wife, observes the monsoon clouds and sends his message of love. Then the cloud first travels northwest and is told to rest on the peak of the Amarakuta, uh, Amarakuta mountain. So in Amarakuta hill peak, which is identified as Amarkantak, the source of the Narmada river. The mountain is depicted as a giant with mango trees and forest fires that the cloud is asked to extinguish. Then the cloud is instructed to drink the waters of the Narmada river. The Narmada river is said as Reva. So Reva is what is Narmada river, and it flows from Amrakuta to uh, Amrakuta to this Alaka. The river's winding course is likened to strips on an elephant. So these descriptions we can see how the Narmada river's winding course is likened to stripes on an elephant. This is how the description is seen there. Then Dasharna. The next, the cloud enters the kingdom of Dasharna, which is the place Dasharna now is modern Chhattisgarh. A land described as having flower-laden gardens. Then the journey continues to Vidisha, near the famous Sanchi stupas, and then to the celebrated city of Ujjaini. Kalidasa, who may have resided in Ujjaini, describes its palaces, temples, and even the fragrant breezes in great detail. Then the cloud passes through the river Gambhira. Here, the river Gambhira is personified in his description. Then the cloud is directed to visit Devagiri, where the cloud has to offer its prayer to Skanda, so that his travel is attains success. Then the cloud flies over the town of Dashapura, which is identified as Mandasore in Madhya Pradesh now. Then the cloud crosses the Charmanvati river, identified as Chambal, today's Chambal. The route moves towards the northern plains over Kurukshetra in Haryana and then northwards to Haridwar and the sources of Ganga at Gangotri. The final leg of the journey takes the cloud into the Himalayas to Mount Kailasa, where it is instructed to rest before arriving at the mythical city of Alaka, the home of the Yaksha's wife. So, like this, we can see the geographical description in Megha Sandesha. Sandesha means message, and Megha is the cloud. So, now what is the message? The message to the wife is the very simple, that the time of curse will come to an end very soon, and I am safe. I'll come and reach you. We can be united together. So this is what is the message. But in to give that message, he guides this cloud to behave in such a way. So how he is guiding means how he has to address his wife. So before addressing, he has to tell his wife how to identify the abode of his yakshi amongst the other houses. So he gives that description. And when he see when he how to identify women, that she is the only woman, uh, uh, the and identify her yakshi as his wife. How he will identify means, he says in that place, if this is the place very popular uh, of love. Okay, they were the all yaksha and yakshi. You can't see a yakshi or yaksha without their spouse. You can see, or you can't see anybody all alone. So if you at all you are able to see one girl, one lady with open hairs, weeping, lean, and drawing, and where the you can see the walls, and in that wall my picture would be there. You can find her weeping somewhere, just hugging the hall, embracing the wall, or you can see her sleeping. If you see her sleeping, then you should not disturb her, because she might be craving for an embarrassment of me, at least in the dream. Like that, he is guiding. So now, when he identifies such a yakshi in that particular place, if he is convinced that it is she, then how he has to start his communication to a unknown person, because yakshi cannot talk to a stranger. So how he has to give her the hope. So he says that you should not meet yakshi all alone. So he said that like you have to give your lightning in a mild way. In Puranic stories, the lightning conceived within the cloud is considered as the spouse of the cloud. So you are not alone, man alone. You have come with the spouse, and now if she sees this you along with lightning, then she will be getting the hope, and she will develop a courage to talk to a person who is with who is dampati, together with, as a dampati. So she will escape the curse that escapes any criticism that alone lonely woman is talking to a lonely person. So all these criticism should not come to my yakshi, who is already in pain. So in that way, he is giving all the guidance to that cloud, and we have seen, we can see a great descriptions in that way. So because in this broad field, the north region has to be covered, and especially gist of geocriticism has to be given. So I took Kalidasa, who is popular among to any non-Sanskrit people also. If you just hear the name Kalidasa, you will know that he's a great poet in classical Sanskrit literature. And from that known source, I have taken the geographical description that he has given in Megha Sandesham. So when we see North region, the authors, Indian writers of North region, we can even Valmiki is from North. Vyasa Bhagavan is from North. So then Kabir Das is from Varanasi. He is from Varanasi. Then here Valmiki, I said, no, Valmiki belongs to Bihar, and he wrote Ramayana. Then his original name is Ratnakar. And when we see Vyasa, who is Vyasa? Vyasa is is born in a island, and that island is somewhere near Yamuna, plains. So like that, Vyasa wrote Mahabharata. He's considered as the author of all the four Vedas, 18 Puranas, and Mahabharata. And all these works are very popular, and they all these poets are also from northern region. So with this, just a glimpses on those such popular poets, I rest my speech here. Thank you, Preeti ma'am, for this wonderful opportunity.
It was, a tour of North India, literary tour. Thank you.
Okay, can I come in?
Yes.
Shall I say the first paper uh, she had chosen? Premchand, Munshi Premchand, one of the greatest, I think, writers. And he's a realist. So I'm so happy she had chosen him to present bioregionalism. The only, and that's a nice topic to take up because he is a realistic writer. That and I wanted to give a the small run through of the plot, because many of us didn't, though it was Eidgah, we never understood. It's about the festival, the background in which the story takes place. No, it is, I mean, a few a little more could have been told about the plot, but otherwise, I think she did present a few ideas that were, I mean, to show that the person is, the boy was very conscious of his, see what his grandmother needs or whatever the cultural setting needs, etc. So that was those seminar, a small study. It was the second one, fantasy. Yeah, that's something we are all familiar with. If we don't take fantasy apart from life in Indian literature. I always see when you say vampire, I used to wonder what that is. Okay, we were into Vedal and all the Yakshis and Pishasha and all that. These are, if they, in different parts of India, they are an integral part of our culture. As children too, we are introduced to such. So what we call magical realism is not the, I don't know whether that as it's applicable in the West is applicable here. It is seamlessly woven. The story and fantasy gets seamlessly woven in and together, and therefore we don't see it as a different world at all. Chandrakant and all those historical stories of chivalry and all that, it just becomes part of Indian culture. So that is, I mean, it is there. So she has done a very good analysis and present a very good analysis of that aspect. Yeah. Yes, and thank you for that very that was a very searching study. Whatever she's gone into it a lot. Dr.M.Uma Maheswari, yes, thank you once again for having taken us into the north. The first person that comes to mind when we think of Sanskrit works is naturally this big. I mean, and you have taken in particular from Kumar Sambhava, you've Kalidas's Kumar Sambhava, you've taken one bit and see. We've read Kalidas's translations. I have read them as a student in only in Hindi, right? The translations. So you chose to keep to the Sanskrit itself and tell us what is there. I just wanted to ask you, which this about the translations of the of all the epics and others we into English, William Jones and others we remember, but a whole lot of Urdu translations, I think, from the time of Akbar, uh, Emperor Akbar, took place. Right, the first I think was it Sanskrit or any of the Indian languages into Urdu, which was, I mean, that I mean, I'm not so sure about. I would like to know if you could throw some light on that. So much of literature was translated into Urdu first, because the North Indians, I think many of them in the North, they understood Urdu, used Urdu more than Hindi those days.
Yes, ma'am, that is a nice question that you have given us. It is really a task for me. I reserve this question because I'm going to give another paper where Sanskrit literature is translated into other Indian languages, as well as English translation of along with English translation. So there, definitely, I'll take this question also and give you the answer there.
Because Macaulay also, I mean, they say, no, between Hindi and this, I mean, Sanskrit, what's it, Sanskrit and at Urdu, which should be the language that should be given importance? That's a big question. That's why I wanted to ask you, because translations have been going on from the Mughal period itself. Was it predated? Before that, do we have any translations? Except the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, which have different versions in different cultures, do we have anything else? So please, if you could throw some light on it, you could do it. Or
I take this question. I need to do a study on that because as of now I am not aware. But this is a nice question, and you have given me this task. Definitely, I'll work on it and get back to you in that
okay,
paper.
any more
Any questions?
students?
Um, I was trying to connect, thinking about when we had Kavya's paper and Dr. Uma's paper. Uh, Whether it's fantasy, what do we call it? Fantasy, magic, realism, myth. Uh, Myth here is connected so much to religion, right? In India, so it's because faith believes the impossible, right? So because faith sees believes the impossible, I think myth and fantasy or whatever get that. Uh, I won't say fantasy, but if it has a religious association, it is not considered so much as fantasy. It is considered as the as spiritual, right? So mystic. So that was something that I was thinking of in relation to both presentations. The Hanuman flying, and so all these things are matter of faith and mysticism. You want to say something, either of both of you?
Preeti, I fully agree with whatever you say about mythology because I started working on comparative study of mythology, Greek and Hindu mythology, where there is a statement, because myth is always associated with something of a falsehood, but they say that because it is a faith, it's based on some belief, okay, which can neither be proved nor disproved. So it's
Yeah.
entirely based on faith and
And
belief.
as long as
So it
faith
can
is
never
there in a
be.
culture, as
Yeah.
long as
Yeah.
faith is there in a culture,
Yes.
uh, these things will, it will be
Continue.
very, yeah, it will be
They
there.
will be relevant.
Mm.
Yeah. They will be relevant because see, it's all something to do with the imagination once again, but that is also necessary for life. We cannot be deeply rooted only to reality. We also need that imagination, some part of imagination, which will add, color to our life and all that. So it's a mix of both. I felt.
Yes, ma'am. Here, when like myth means um, fiction. There, like you have prose. We have two types of prose. One is katha and another one is akhyayika. They say katha is where you give imaginary, like Superman, superheroes, movies come. No? Like all those things come under katha. Akhyayika, where you actually give the description. Iti iha asa is itihasa. This is how it happened here. This is the meaning of itihasa. So there it is the belief that it really happened, and the yoga differs, and the capacity of the people differ. Like there are if we haven't seen the Jurassic Park movie and all, we would not even remember or accept there was a dinosaur, such a huge animal was there like that. So we don't know, because it is itihasa, all under itihasa literature, Vyasa's Mahabharata and Valmiki Ramayana, all these come. And Valmiki Ramayana is just a narration there, and a narration about a king there. uh, Here, with respect to Kalidasa's Megha Sandesham, we cannot take this as myth, because it is the mental condition of a lonely husband who has been separated from his beloved. They are both are young, and because of a curse given by Kubera, he is spending somewhere in the deep caves of Ramagiri. So there is no people where he can actually associate with them and share his depression, weep or cry, nothing, anything he is able to see. Not even animals he is able to see there in the cave. Everything he is seeing is, when he sees with some through some hole, it is just a sky, and he is seeing something moving is the cloud. So there, all his mental anguish, because it is movable, so thinking he is giving a stress buster there.
So is it fantasy then?
uh, Here it is not fantasy, no, it is it
You're saying it's not myth. So I'm just kind of debating like what is myth, what can be considered myth, what can be considered fantasy.
yes, when it is in the name of cloud, if you say how a cloud can be a messenger and talk to uh, his wife, then that perception, it can be a myth or a fantasy. But
A
The
projection of human emotion.
imaginary made real.
it's like
That's there in literature. We use the imagination.
no, when a person is all alone in a depressed condition, he sees when we see in the angle of this person, then it is not.
See, myth is oral culture. Like myth comes is related to oral culture. Am I right?
Yeah, here myth is that you doubt whether it has happened or not. Is it any possibility to happen in that way? That is what is like in Sanskrit, poet fantasy is called as fantasy is called as utpreksha, where the thing, the reason is not, cannot be a reason, but you somehow justify this as a reason. Like twan mukhashri krite nunam padmair vairayate shashi, they say. So beautiful. I feel that the lotus and the moon are competing with each other to just be a similified form, upamana. Because to whom I will compare your face, whether it's with the moon or with the cloud. Should I say that you are beautiful like a lotus, or should I say that your face is beautiful and brighter than, like a moon? Here, to make him narrate like that, both the lotus and the moon are competing with each other. This is not possible. But the poet's narration, he says, in nature, when the moon comes, lotus shrinks. The lotus blooms when the sun comes. So the shrinking of the lotus and the rise of the moon, it is given as that they don't like each other. If that is what is the competition, they say. So it is not the actual reason, but it is justified as the reason. And the cause for this fight is the girl's face, which is not the reason. Again, it is justified as the reason. So all such comes under poetic fantasy, which is called utpreksha. So
License, the license taken by the person to use all these things, though very contrary, unreasonable, still they bring,
yeah.
a very unseemly elements together.
Yes.
What was that? That was done. What is he known as? Bringing all kinds of. What is that term? We've forgotten everything. Preeti, only I'm asking you.
Huh?
I mean, bringing very the compass and thing and all together. What is this? What is that? John Donne's.
John Donne. Yeah.
Yeah.
Metaphysical.
Metaphysical. Yes, it's metaphysical
Yes.
elements.
Yes.
See, I want to say something that may not sound very scholarly. There was this child who looked at the moon and he told his sister, "Hey, Jesus மேல the torch அடிக்கிறாரு."
Oh,
So it's a perception.
yes.
So for a child, it looks like God from heaven is shining the torch.
Yes.
So
That's why it works with children. These kinds of elements, it's just natural child stuff also. I think sometimes you have to become a child and then put all these unseemly elements together. Only then you will get high poetry. I think. Yes, Kalidasa sustained the imagination, of talking to the cloud. You've chosen. I mean, I think you. So I've always wondered what makes Sandesha, is like in the poetic. I just knew the thing, talking to the cloud, that's all I knew. But I didn't know all these details, as you said.
But it was wonderful how she was connecting it with the cloud and the places there, Chambal Valley, this river, that river. So it was really nice. Chosen a nice text and connected with regions of North India.
Yeah, and that
How to behave, how to talk, how to talk to that person. So along with that, how behavior, cultural aspects are also included.
yes.
That's what, Preeti, one more point I would like to add here. There's a lot of difference between the Itihasas and the mythologies, the stories that we have. So most of the Hindu mythologies are found in Puranas, the 18 Puranas. So they are all based on some faith and all that, which we believe in, and then it's all handed over from one generation to another. But Itihasa, Ramayana and Mahabharata are called Itihasas. They are not myths, actually. Even though we call them epics, as Westerners call them, but we have a specific
The
term for that
historical
because
and
they're all historical. And all the places which are referred to in Ramayana, Valmiki's Ramayana, we find actually all the places are there. So many of the places I myself have visited, some of them, like Naimisaranya and then Nandigrama, like that. We have lot of references to all the places, like the entire tour, from where, how he started, and then going to Sri Lanka and then coming back. Everything is, it's all there. So they give even satellite pictures of all that.
yeah, I've seen that.
So, yeah. So it's all
So
based
the
on history.
yeah,
Yeah.
the bridge of shells or something.
Ramasetu,
Yeah,
Ramasetu.
yeah, Rameshwaram. From
Mm.
Rameshwaram, they laid a bridge and all that. All that is supposed to be there. Yeah, we get satellite pictures of that. So what I'm trying to bring in here is Puranas, or maybe they contain mythology, stories. Okay, which is once again based on certain faith. But Ramayana and
And
Mahabharata are
supernatural, the supernatural
supposed to have
element.
happened. Yeah, yeah.
The
And I
the
visited Kurukshetra. So, just a couple of years ago, I visited Kurukshetra also. All those places are there, very much there, even now. And one more observation here, because Uma referred to the Himalayan region and all that reference we get in most of the classical writings. So here, even when we do, it is not just the geographical description alone. See, whenever we do a sankalpa before pujas, no, before performing pujas, we refer to the Bharata Varsha and then the entire nation. From macrocosm, we come down to the individual self. So we talk about how there is a lot of some of you might be familiar with that. Bharata Varshe, Bharata Kande, Dakshine Parsve, Asmin Vartamane, all that we say in Sankalpa. So from that, how no you're from the macrocosm, you're bringing yourself down to yourself, saying that so and so who is only a speck in that universe, and you're doing that thing to the deity. So there is some meaning to that also, I felt. So it's more than just a mere geographical description. It makes us realize that we are only a part of this big universe, entire universe, and how we are created from the Paramatma, Jivatma, all that is brought into the thing. We are made to be aware of that all the time. We are
so
made to be, yeah,
like once again, connecting the three
yeah,
papers,
yes,
it's the spiritual side, you can say you know,
yeah,
and the story Eidgah by which
mm,
Jothika took up. It
yes,
is
yes,
the day-to-day sustenance. It's about
mm,
day-to-day life. It's about
yeah,
the bi-regional connect. It's about
mm,
food.
mm, mm,
It's very
mm,
much about food. It's about
yeah,
the chapatis that they have,
mm, mm,
that which is their staple food.
yeah, yeah.
So physical,
And that
which
is
is
why,
spiritual.
last time also we had a reference to this, no, Preeti, about the rituals. And I made
Mm,
that observation. Like everything, it's a kind of thanksgiving
mm,
to all the natural elements. So we have to be
yeah.
conscious of all that is surrounding us, what is outside of us, and then from there you come to your inner self.
It is
So
very
I think that is the crux of the
So
entire thing.
Kavya, Kavya, would you consider myth? Which would you stand by saying that this is fantasy or myth?
Um, in the three works I took, the Vikramaditya is obviously myth, and the other two things are fantasy, because we don't
Mm,
have any character representing it or any
yeah.
previous works, mythological works that were the base of the other two novels. But Vikramaditya, we have this
Okay, that's definitely myth.
Vetal that is myth,
Mm,
and the other two are fantasy elements, pure just
yeah,
fantasy.
yeah, that's what I thought. So you should say myth and fantasy. Maybe you
Myth
should
and
correct your
fantasy,
title.
yes, yes, ma'am,
I
yes.
would actually rule out the word fantasy in our, I mean, all of these works. The fantastic is not I mean, in the sense that it is of a different regime and time, that's all. But otherwise, the characters or this are based on uh, this only, right?
In Indian literature, sort of when it comes to myth, we cannot use the word fantasy.
Yes.
Shall we call it a day? It's a very nice session.
Yes, Preeti, I really enjoyed.
I enjoyed it.
We
And all
learn also. Yeah, we also learn. We think.
Participation
Yeah.
was nil here at that
I
time.
have a notebook for in tandem.
Yes.
So
Oh,
taking
do
notes.
take a note of it. That's good.
When Urmila ma'am was telling those regarding something sankalpa, no, what we do, it is like registration, like yes, we are doing this here to geotagging camera. We take the picture which gives all the locations and all, and it stays as a proof ever. So oral tradition, what is the proof of is the sankalpa and the mangala that we do about the locations. So that is what I just connect that with the
Yeah.
modern video camera. This is oral camera. The, thanks, ma'am. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Actually, so next I'll work on this translated works, especially Srilata ma'am. I'll just uh, see in Urdu which Sanskrit literature was translated, and I'll get back in the next session.
Tawhida, we can conclude the session.
Yes, ma'am. As we now come to the conclusion of today's In Tandem Research Club session, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all our speakers, presenters, and participants for making this program a resounding success. Special thanks to Dr. Uma Maheswari for inspiring keynote address and to our presenters, Ms. Jothika and Professor Kavya Bharathi for their valuable contributions. And finally, to everyone present here, thank you for your being a part of this intellectual journey. Let us continue to stay in tandem with knowledge, research, and innovation. Thank you and have a wonderful evening ahead. Thank you all.